Well, it's time for Young Justice. Hi, I'm Gibson Shamar, and I welcome you to Young Justice Season 4 talk. I'll first talk about the characters, and then I'll talk about the show, saying what I like about it, what I think it did well, and what I think it didn't. I can't tell you how surprised I was to hear that Young Justice would get a fourth season. I mean, I was surprised, but also not at the same time. But then again, no matter how bad the third season would turn out to be, it was always going to get enough viewership for a fourth season. Well, this new season is an improvement over season 3, but still suffers from a lot of the stuff that the third season was bringing into. I'll get into that later. Let's have a look at the characters, shall we? Then again, I need to have a look at the list too. There are just too many of them in this show. Okay, so let's see. We'll start with McGann. She is Miss Martian, a niece of Martian Manhunter. She has all the powers of a DC Universe Martian and has matured a lot since her first appearance, where she was a ditzy, wacky, childlike, and very ignorant of humanity's notions on privacy. Funny how a telepath didn't know what worked for people around her and what didn't. She is a senior member of the team, which for some reason still doesn't have a name even though it was put together around 10 years ago. This season deals with her trying to get married to Superboy, also known as Connor Kent. She's mature now, powerful, confident, and assertive, with still that hint of vulnerability that her character was known for in the previous seasons. Next up, I guess we have Connor Kent, also known as Superboy. He is a clone of Superman and Lex Luthor, created to replace Superman should he ever die, or to take him if he goes bad, which by Lex Luthor standards means that Superboy was just meant to take out Superman. He started out as a very angry, primal dude who was very antisocial, but with time became more reasonable with his emotions and became a team member. This season has him be a normal person, emotionally. He has all the powers he used to have, doesn't understand his power set fully, he keeps wondering why he can't fly despite being a clone of Superman. I don't know, pal. Maybe it's because you're part human, so you can't have full-on Kryptonian powers? He spends most of the season in the Phantom Zone and eventually loses his mind to zone sickness and becomes an ally of Zod, who aims to conquer the world after escaping with his followers. He's out of action for most of the season and finally gets involved in the last couple of episodes. Most of his story is just dealing with manufactured grief and guilt. Then we've got, let's see here. Who else was the main character in this? Ah, yes, Rocket. Yeah, this stems from an issue I'm going to address later on in the video. Rocket is a mom now and has an autistic kid. She's still having the same problem as she always did, putting her superhero career so far ahead of her personal life that her partner starts complaining. And, well, wasn't she with Guardian last time we saw her? Anyway, she serves to bring us back to the days where superheroes struggled to balance their personal life with their superhero career, except she's a mother, not a teenager, and her love interest knows her secret identity. It's still a tough thing. She's devoted to both things and is doing a very good job of keeping things afloat despite all the problems that she is facing. I like how she develops a sort of rivalry with Orion due to his very strict nature, whereas she's just as intense but more liberal. We also have Aqualad, who has gone through a stint as the leader of the Justice League. Bro, you were the leader of the Justice League? Dude, you came a long way from season 1. So, yeah, he has been so busy that he doesn't have time to even grieve fallen comrades. He never even grieved Wally because of how much he occupied himself. He's still the quiet yet intense, calm and collected figure of authority that he has always been. He is fiercely loyal to the crown and the fight for justice. No pun intended. He went through this really moving moment where he finally sat down and absorbed everything that has happened since the end of season 2, and it really hurt to watch. He was a really relatable character at that point. Then we have the baddies of the season. First up, we have Zod, the main guy. I like how they finally used Zod in a cartoon, but I have serious questions about his hair color. Was it really necessary to change it? I mean, the change is based on an inaccurate adaptation of the character in a short lived, barely remembered show, but anyway, we move. So, he's shown to be a strong leader. He has a faithful army behind him, as well as his wife, Ursa. They didn't go with Feora. Hmm. Oh well, we move. So, his deal is that he wanted to conquer Krypton before it exploded and was banished to the Phantom Zone for a term of 10 years. The only problem is that Krypton was destroyed when he was imprisoned and no one was left to release him. He stayed in there for 1,000 years until the Phantom Zone projector was discovered and used to release him. Needless to say, he was very upset that that happened, but did not change his ways and went on to try and conquer the universe with his newfound powers. He eventually ended up having a son, as his wife was pregnant and disowned. But since they do not age in there, she was pregnant for 1,000 years, and she only carried the baby to term when she was released. Their son's name is Lor-Zod, who is the next guy we will talk about. Lor-Zod. Boy, this guy is intense. He is a Kryptonian, the son of Zod and Ursa. He is merciless, unforgiving, driven, hateful, and just plain mean. He is very loyal to his father, though. Seriously, you would love to have a son like Lor-Zod, aside from the whole murder, time travel, imperialistic thing he's got going on. He's adapted from the post-crisis DC continuity as a child who was born in the Phantom Zone, so he could keep his physical form there while the others became phantoms. I was actually happy to see him on screen finally, although it wasn't the way I would have liked to, but anyway. We also have Beast Boy, who in this season suffers from what we call post-traumatic stress disorder. Please forgive me for having said that we'll explore the baddies. Beast Boy just came up in the characters that I remembered that I forgot. For a youngster, he has seen a lot of death and other forms of action. He's bared a lot of responsibilities for a youngster, and that's saying something, considering he's a member of the team. Seriously, when are they going to start calling it Young Justice? Heck, the characters have already aged past the acceptable age to allow themselves to be called Young Justice. Anyway, he's a green-skinned metahuman with the power to transform into animals. While in the comics he gets this power from a formula made by his parents to cure a disease he had, in this universe he gets it due to having M'gann's blood from a transplant due to an injury he sustained when he was younger, making him get the Martian green skin and limited shapeshifting abilities, turning into animals only. Don't ask me how that works, and if you ask me, he should be the one wondering why his powers are limited like that, instead of Superboy wondering about his. He gets distant from everyone in this season because he doesn't want to open up about what's bothering him. But we as the audience know that the events of the previous season finally pushed him and his mental health to the edge. And in usual teenage fashion, he doesn't want to listen even when people tell him that there's something wrong with him. Man even lost his girlfriend because of this. We've got Zatanna Zetaria, who has taken up the responsibility of mentoring magic-using teenagers who wish to one day become superheroes. She is also teaching one of the Shazam kids, Mary Bromfield, who for some weird reason has been popping up a lot lately. I don't get what's so great about her that stands out from the other Shazam kids. But then that's just me. It might be very obvious for other people. Zatanna is a magician whose spells are just backward speech. It's really fun trying to figure out what she's saying when she casts a spell because all she does is say a normal sentence, but backwards. She still has guilt over the sacrifice that her father made to the Lord of Order, Naboo, giving up his body to host the helmet. Yeah, that is a very sad story that is too tough to get into. It's also revealed that she used to go out with Dick Grayson in between the seasons. Grayson, you sly dog, you. She has really picked up a lot of tricks and is far more confident in her ability than in previous seasons and is shown to have an encyclopedic knowledge of the realm of magic in DC.
Then we have the other bad guy of the show, Vandal Savage. He's an immortal who has lived since prehistoric times, and in typical comic book media onside comics fashion, turns out to have been every great conqueror we read about in history. Yay! How legendary. Definitely not lazy. I don't even know what his deal is anymore, to be honest. He's been with the bad guys since season 1 and was a major player of the Light, like they called it, and is the most consistent member. We learn more about his backstory here, and it turns out that he is the ancestor of the lineage of Atlantis' royal family, the father of the original Naboo wizard, and therefore is the father of the Atlantean race and Homo Magi. Seriously, what the heck is going on here? It is shown that his lust for power is what led to the sinking of Atlantis, as he wanted to take it from his son, and his rivalry with the Chaos Lord Clarion is what led to Naboo's calling. So, the show finally revealed to us that the main bad guy of Young Justice is Vandal Savage. But then again, the previous seasons made it seem like Darkseid was the one who was pulling the strings. Dude, I have no idea. There are other characters who make appearances in the show, but not enough for us to actually have more than a couple of sentences to mention them, such as the Legion of Superheroes, Dick Grayson, Barbara Gordon, Oracle, Vandal Savage's kids, I forgot their names, Aquaman and Mera, Magon's parents, Forager, Orion Tomari, Kilowog, and so many others, including that inflatable pufferfish guy, Lagan. He's got a very interesting power set, but he's so underused, I think. I feel like that, though. We can't cover them all under 20 minutes, unfortunately. Plus, there isn't much about them anyway. Yeah, it's weird, I know. But it is what it is. Anyway, on to the show itself. Young Justice Season 4 is a bit of a mixed bag. This show, honestly speaking, has been declining in quality since the first season ended. Season 1 was just awesome. Season 2 was great too, but the time skip was very extreme, and the increase in the cast was not very welcome. Season 3 had so many things wrong with it, and the first thing was the weird animation quality it had. There was just something off about it. This season, while an improvement over Season 3, was just kind of not really there. I mean, I get that it had a lot to juggle, but that's also a problem. The show has too many characters in it, and because of that, the season was even separated into separate arcs. Man, honestly, I don't even know what to make of this show anymore. All these arcs led to something in the end, but the fact that it had to be done like that shows that it has a lack of focus. The storytelling is also mature, touching on several matters that are of interest to people today. And while that's something positive, it's also something negative. For example, everyone is into mental health nowadays. So they had Rocket have an autistic child. Okay, so what? How does that factor into the story? It doesn't. It's just there just because. It's established simply because people relate to it. Does it help her on her journey in the season? Does it affect her actions? No, and no. It's just there. Filler content like that is nice, but not when you have like 12 main characters in the cast. See, if the team just had like 6 people and that was the whole cast, with maybe occasional guest appearances from other DC characters, that would be fine. But this is just there just because. Beast Boy has PTSD. Okay, nice. How does he deal with it? He doesn't, and it wrecks his relationships with his friends and girlfriend. See? That's how you handle it. Congratulations, writer. Now, if you could have shown some work on Rocket's story with her autistic son instead of just telling us, hey, it all worked out, then we'd have a reason to be happy for her or relate to her. A show called Young Justice is definitely aimed at teenagers, seeing as the whole point of Young Justice is to just showcase teenagers who are trying to live up to the legacy created by the adults. In the comics, the team was comprised of third generation heroes, with the Justice League being first and the Teen Titans being second. Young Justice was for guys who couldn't make it into the Teen Titans, so they're really the underdogs of the underdogs. Therefore, it's really meant for children. The problem with the show is that it was made more than 12 years ago, so the people who were teenagers back then are now parents or just fully fledged adults. And why does that matter? Because the main viewer demographic isn't going to be teenagers today. It'll be the adults because this is a show that they know. Kids today know Teen Titans Go. They may know Young Justice, but it won't be as interesting to them as to the people who are introducing them to the show. So when you bring in topics which are relatable to teenagers, it creates a sense of, I don't know how to put it. You feel like you're a fish out of the water despite it being where you were your whole life. I mean, this with today's thing of having people come out of the closet and declare their love for different flavored ice cream or how they want people to refer to them. I don't have a problem with that being included in any show, but it's clear that the intention with bringing that to Young Justice was just so they can go like, see, we know what teens are going through. We're relatable. My best example is with Violet, the living mother box whose software or consciousness was infused into the corpse of a dead girl. Season 3 had her coming to grips with what she is, and she decided that she is neither female or male. Okay, good for you. You scored points. Then we have Violet go through the exact same thing all over again in season 4, where they go through coming to grips with their identity and then telling the mother of the original girl. Okay, but to what end? How is this relevant to the audience? You already showed Violet go through this in season 3. Why go through it again? More importantly, why show us all over again? You want to remind us that this is an important issue to tackle as a society? You know what you could have done instead? You could have shown us Violet's day-to-day and contrasted to Bioforce's day-to-day to show us the differences between them. As I've said, the show has spread itself way too thinly, and unfortunately there's no turning back from that. They just have to keep going. The best way they can do is just stop introducing new characters, because honestly, this isn't even Young Justice anymore. This is DC Universe, the animation. The show has lost its flair, its magic, its enchantment over us. If they had kept that same energy they had in the first couple of seasons, scratch that, in season 1, and kept it at the handful of characters with a few months between seasons, we could have just had just about the greatest DC animated show ever. After the DCAU shows, of course. Because there's no beating those. Sorry, James Gunn. This show has been on a downhill trajectory for years. Plus, the villain doesn't really feel like much of a threat. Even though he's doing all these shady things, he's still under the heel of the Lords of Order. He can't overstep his boundaries with them, and that already makes him less of a threat than he initially was. It's like how we couldn't take Steppenwolf seriously as a threat in Zack Snyder's Justice League because every half hour we'd be reminded that there's someone he fears, and we see that same guy get beat in a flashback by someone who was already killed by someone in the Justice League. So Steppenwolf really isn't much of a threat. I like the episodes with Zatara because for once in a modern show they showcase Christianity in a good light. And I love how they balanced it by showcasing Islam as well. Good job, show. You managed to do such things and make them matter to the overall story and implemented it to what was going on with the characters who were going through crisis. Zatara's faith in God through Christian beliefs is what helped him persevere through his hardships and what kept him going even when he was wearing the helmet of fate. Khalid Nasur served as a nice way to balance the Christian faith with other religions as well. And heck, even Violet was used for that. Khalid was for the broad perspective of Islam, and Violet was for the female perspective specifically. They taught the viewers the significance of the hijab. Very nice stuff. Good job, show. As a point of reference, Khalid is a descendant of the progenitor of the Homo Magi race, and that progenitor is called Arion. Arion was revealed to be a child of Vandal Savage, which means that Khalid is a descendant of Vandal Savage. Speaking of descendants, I never understood the Atlantis saga. So Aquaman isn't the true king of Atlantis? it's Mira, or it's that other prophesized guy whose name I forgot. You know, the guy that Ocean Master was using as a pawn? It even turns out that Ocean Master was a pawn himself because he was dead and they cloned him. Sheesh, dude. That storyline was confusing because I thought the whole thing with Aquaman is that he was descended from the first king of Atlantis, which is why he was the king in the first place. Now it turns out that he's not? What the heck is going on here? They even gave him the name Orin from the post-crisis continuity. And then Mira is the one that ends up ruling? Are you trying to make up for the whole court situation that happened with the Mira multiversal variant? Or was it all part of a grand design, something you planned from the start? I wish that Lord Zod got some sort of redemption, but when he killed Tomari, I was like, nah, you're not getting that, buddy. And the thing is, I was a fan of the storyline in the comics, what with getting adopted by the Kents and taking on the identity of Chris Kent and all. But, alas, that was not meant to be in this show. He was a very hateful character. He had a very strong personality, and it would take a long time for him to be developed into a redeemed character. I guess it won't be like poetry. It won't rhyme. I also like the touch they put on with comic accuracy, saying that Krypton was in Tomari's sector and he failed to stop its destruction. Yeah, pal, you really needed to atone for that. That was a big failure on your part, especially because it was destroyed due to natural causes and not some military crusade. And I just have to say, I hate the way they pronounce Martian things, like Ja'an and Mars. Guys, please, why did you have to make it like that? I wasn't able to hear it normally for days after the show ended. And Ma'ale Fa'ak. Ah, man, that was so frustrating to hear. Anyway, I digress. The show is still good. The season is still good. It's better than the previous one, but needs a lot of work to be done for it to be actually good. Plus, as a bonus note, the opening sequence was actually my favorite one. After season 1, of course. Season 1 is classic. But the opening sequence in this show was so nice. I watched it and it just brought me back to the good old days when Young Justice was still good and hopeful. The producers really earned their paycheck with that opening sequence. Either way, now the show gets a not bad rating from me. Well, anyway, you've heard me ramble about it. Tell me what you think of the season and the show overall in the comments below. Check out our Facebook page, our Instagram page, and other videos we've got in this very same channel. Have a good day.